Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to call the meeting to order for the work session for Cabarrus County Schools Board of Education for April the 2nd, 2012. Board members, you've had your agenda on board docs for several days now, and we need to have a motion that the agenda be approved as presented. Do I have such a motion?
Second.
Motion, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 6-0. And just for the so that you'll know, Miss Blackwater won't be able to join us tonight. She's sort of under the weather a little bit, and this will be probably one of the first meetings I think she's missed in many, many years. So anyway, so she won't be with us. So now what we'll do is we'll move on into our report section, and I want to remind all of the those of you that will be giving reports tonight, sort of be ready to go when your time comes. Be ready so you can jump up to the mic and let's carry on with the reports. And so now we're going to do with the construction report, and that's you, Ms. Klutz, and so we'll let you have the floor. Thank you.
I'd like to bring to you the construction budget report as of April 2nd, 2012. There are very insignificant minor changes to the budget report today. A.T. Allen, there was a net change of $3,400 as indicated by a close of a purchase order. Actually, that was an issuance of a purchase order, and then there were closing two purchase orders to Harold Winkler Middle School, which caused the $11,392 increase back into that account. And I'll take any questions that you have on that report.
Thank you, Ms. Klutz. Board members, does anyone have any questions? I think, Ms. Carpenter, you had a question reference Harold Winkler?
Yeah, I was just curious why Winkler was still so high, the actual amount.
That's the land and contingency amount in those accounts that we have not actually reverted back to the county yet, but they have their finger on them, on those dollars.
Oh, okay. I just noticed it was still real high. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, I just had a question. When will the money be reverted back? This fiscal year?
Most likely. I can get you a date on that, but most likely.
Because I think, when you look at these projects, for the most part, they're closed.
Yeah. They had indicated.
And we need to be turning that back and be done with it.
They had indicated the end of February, so I assumed they would be any time now. But they've not literally taken the money yet. I can get you a definite date on that.
Okay, any other questions from the board on the construction report? Okay, thank you, Ms. Klutz. Okay. Okay, all right, well, now we need to move on to 3.02. I think you're finished, aren't you, Ms. Klutz? Okay, good. All right, on the 3.02, board members, Mr. Whitkey, he's still tied up at the county commission. I haven't seen him come in yet, but do we have Mr. Jerry Lambert? Is he with us tonight? Jerry, if you'd come on up and you can do this report in Lynn's absence, I'm sure you'll do just as good, and we'd be glad to have you at the podium. Thank you.
Okay. Did you? No. Yeah. Just hit that. Okay. Thank you. Oh, right there. Okay. Okay. Thank you. We finished our health inspection reports this in March, and what I presented is two graphs to show you how we've done. The first graph is divided between the different schools. What I want you to understand is the blue line there is what we call our target line. That's what we set through the Health Alliance, and we want to maintain a 97% average on our health inspections. If you look at the others, the elementary, the middle, and the high school, you can see even though we did drop a little bit, we are still well above the 97. If you go to the second, that's where I combine all of the schools together, and that gives you a better picture. Last year we were at 99.2. This year we did drop some, and we averaged 98.9 on our health inspections. Is there any questions?
Jerry, I want to back up just 1 minute to the previous, the first chart that you showed us there. And
yeah.
I was just curious on the I think it's the high school inspection grade there,
Yes.
92, and then it goes up, then it goes back down, and it shoots way up. Was there any particular reason? I don't know if any of the other board members have any concern. I was just questioning that, though, because it was the lowest one, and of course it's up with the rest of them now, which is where we want it. But
Yes. You mean this year?
yeah,
or-
well, no, you can see where it was way down.
Yeah,
90,
well,
then it goes up. But during that period of time, though, I just wonder if there
We
was
had a couple, when we first started this, we had a couple of high schools that we did have problems with the cleanliness and training and getting the staff up to speed and so forth. And that's where, we really tried to put the efforts and we emphasized the training. And we got it back up to that level. However, this year we did come back down, and the reason we came down, you'll see we dropped in the middle school and the high school area. But the reason for that is we had some custodial issues in one particular school. They had 5 custodians, we had 3 custodians out on the same days for numerous time periods, each having medical issues. And we had an issue with the timing on getting substitutes in there to help out and keep the school clean. During that time, we got hit with an inspection that really dropped us down. I went and spoke with HR, and we worked together, and we were able to change the policy so we could bring the substitutes in quicker. That stopped the free-for-all, leveled out, and started us back up, and that's the reason we ended up with a 98.9.
Well, it obviously worked, Jerry, because
Yes.
everything looks real good there on that. And I'll tell you, there's not many restaurants you go in these days that have a 97 plus pretty much average.
Well,
So that's very highly to be commendable.
Well, I thank you, but it's everybody. This is a team effort, not just custodians, but when I go in there, I try and emphasize with the administrators, the teachers, and the students also. It's a team effort to keep the school clean, and I'm proud of what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I didn't know if you wanted to go over any of the other charts on there. Board members, you've had this data, and if you would like to ask Jerry some questions
Just
while
go
he's
for it.
here, now would be the time to do that.
So-
But you've had this report, though, so if you have questions, we'll open it up for questions. Mr. Furr, you have anything you want to add? Okay, anybody got any comments? Jerry, thank you for filling in for Lynn. Thank you for the good job you're doing with child nutrition.
All right,
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, we need to move on. Let me get back. It's hard to talk and move this at the same time. Now, what we're going to have to do, Mr. Wickey's not here, so the 3.3, the monthly QSCB budget update, we'll have to wait till Mr. Wickey gets here to do that. So what we can do, board members, is we'll move on to 4.01. This will be the Cabarrus County Schools 2012-2013 budget proposal. And Ms. Klutz will be at the podium, and she's ready to talk to us about that. And keep in mind that these items, 4.1 through I think it's 4.08, will be items that will be either on the action agenda or on the consensus agenda for our April the 16th meeting. And so whatever discussion needs to be had, we need to handle that tonight while we're here. And also, while you're doing this, Ms. Klutz, I wanted to make mention that we have a number of our budget committee members here tonight. Thank all of you for coming and being a part of our meeting and showing the support for the work that the budget committee has done in the last, well, however long, hundreds and hundreds of hours and many meetings. So, Ms. Klutz, the podium's yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I was actually going to introduce our budget committee, if I could take just a minute and ask them to stand. I have here Barry Shoemaker, Janet Smith, Kevin Blackburn, Angela Martin, Renee Caudle, Lynn Shue, Carolyn Carpenter, Cindy Furtenbaugh, Kathy Auger is not here, Sue Yates, Kelly Klutz, Barry Shepard, and Matthew Fail. And we have all follow instructions.
When the finance director tells you to stand up, by golly, you better stand up.
They don't follow instructions, do they? Thank you, thank you. you need to be recognized for all of your effort. There was a lot of time and effort put into this committee. Like Mr. Shue said, over 1,000 hours were indulged into this committee. We spent a lot of time together. So I just wanted to start by introducing our committee. Wanted to let you know there were a lot of difficult decisions made, and there was a lot of planning. We established this committee last year prior to the beginning of budget time, establishing budget. So that was probably September of last year, so nearly 2 years ago. There are 19 members on our current committee, and we are here as a committee to ask you to support the decisions that we are recommending to you today. This year is unlike last year, 2011, 2012, which is the current year that we're in. We asked you, we recommended, and you adopted to cut $6.1 million out of our budget. And we're pleased to say that we are not in that position this year, that we are at a flat budget and a level budget this year. So those decisions impacted our staff and every area of our classroom, and they were detrimental to our system. But we're not there this year, and we are thankful for that. We are operating, and we will be operating on a per pupil funding level that is significantly less than our 2008-2009 per pupil funding on state and the local level. So we're back quite a significant number of years, and I'll give you some graphs and some information to show you that, but just as information. As a reminder and a caution, we watched growth consume us over the last decade, and the growth has not gone away, but we've been fighting the economy for the last 4 years, and we still will be fighting the economy over the next few years, and that's going to sneak up on us in the next couple of years, and we're going to try to catch up from that too. I just remind you that we funded 4 schools from growth in 1 year because we tried to catch up from that. And I don't want to be standing in front of you in 3 or 4 years trying to catch up from this. I want to put things out there and let our commissioners know that we can't sustain additional cuts. We can't sustain any more cuts than we've planned for. And it is very difficult to be at the level of cuts that we are right now. So we do have a plan. We plan to present that plan to you, and so we'll just get started with that information now. Want to show you some data. As I said, growth has consumed us over the last 10 years. Our average daily membership since 2007 is what I'm showing you now. The green data is the previous growth, the previous year's number, ADM, average daily membership, and the white is the growth for that current year. So we grew in 2006-2007, we grew 1,713 students, and as you all know, that's more than a school. We only put 1,200 kids in a school, so we grew more than a school that year. 2012-2013, we're 29,844 is our projection. We're projected to grow 662 students. So, and we just had another budget committee member arrive, Randy Calhoun. Thank you, Randy, for coming. So our growth, we have not stopped growing. We hear permitting has slowed down or stopped over the years when the economy has slowed down. Students did not stop coming to us. They're still coming to us every year, and we serve those students. We take care of those students. Okay. The next graph that I'm showing you is our local funding. Comes from our county, and it includes our facilities and grounds funding in that number. 2008, $43 million. 2012-2013 is projected to be flatline at $46.7 million. Now, if you look at that growth, it looks like we're trending upward, which looks like where you want to go. It looks like a normal progression, but I would caution you. Okay. The next graph is capital outlay, and I'm just going to insert this one in the middle. Capital outlay is the funds that we buy. This is non-construction. We buy our furniture and equipment, our technology, any of those items like that. If we have major HVAC system repairs, building repairs, anything outside of the norm, this is where those dollars would come from. And you can see there's definitely a decrease in funding there. Okay. Now, this graph shows that where the other graph showed an increase, an incremental increase in funding, because there is an incremental increase in funding, but if you look at a per pupil basis, you're going to see a decline in funding over the years because we're growing in students, although the funding hasn't caught up. It's not the same. So we're actually getting less funding per student over the years. Okay? This graph depicts our actual average daily membership versus, this is our per pupil expense and our student enrollment. So student enrollment is on top, and it's growing, and our per pupil expense, our funding, is going down. So the curves are going opposite of each other, and clearly that is not what we need. We need those to be in alignment, obviously, but they are going in opposite directions. Okay. This graph is a graph that you've seen before. It indicates the number of students that we serve in proportion to the number of adults that serve them. 2008, we had 27,188 children, and 3,396 adults served those children. In 2013, we are projected to be at 29,844 students, and we will have 3,339 adults serve them. That is 57 less adults that will serve those children than did in 2008, and we'll have 2,656 more children than we did in 2008. So what my take from that is that we are extremely efficient. Okay. Okay. So this year with our budget committee, we left no rock unturned. Again, we said that we spent at least 1,000 hours with our budget committee, our subcommittees. We had 20 subcommittees, and we had 40 advisory committees. We started in October, and we worked diligently on our budget up until the last this last week, preparing this proposed budget for you. And at the end of the day, we feel like our budget committee, most of the members on this budget committee did an awesome job last year in the document that we submitted, that every recommendation, every line item that we reviewed, we didn't feel like there were significant changes that could be made to the budget. So our goal this year was to have a budget that was efficient, effective, and could be implemented with the utmost fidelity, that has the best interests of our students and our staff in mind. We deliberated over every item. We considered increases to the budget, and we didn't feel like it was prudent or fiscally responsible to increase at this time. We also decided we were not in a position to add many items at this time without detriment to other areas. We know that additional cuts to the budget would not be good for our system or employee morale. Every item was given thoughtful consideration, and there were many spirited debates. We appreciate the time and the effort that's gone into every discussion and every item into this year's budget process. I feel like we're minimalist this year in that we have very little to offer. So our recommendation as a budget committee are the following. We have these 3 items as increases. and we have these two items as decreases that we want to present to you. And we'll
Board
take-
members, you will notice that, as Ms. Klutz had stated there, that there's only just a couple of increases and decreases, and I want to be the first to tell you, I don't think I missed any meetings, I don't think. But anyway, there was literally list and list and list of ideas, recommendations from the various committees, various advisories, and all of that. And when it came down to it, you know, I felt like, wow, we did all of that. You know, we did all of this work, all these, as you mentioned, thousands of hours and many, many meetings to come down to this because we felt like, as Ms. Klutz already stated, that it would not have been prudent to ask for an increase, knowing that the things are the way they are, not only with individuals and families and the county in general, because they're fighting their own budget issues now, and it just wouldn't be prudent for us to do that. And so the only thing really that the Budget Committee is recommending are these couple little items right here, which I'm sure there'll maybe be a question or two from the board on that. But I just wanted to try to emphasize that there wasn't any rocks left unturned. We turned them over and debated it, and in some cases it was pretty spirited because I found out something. The people that's responsible for their portion of the budget, they're real particular about that part. And now don't take it from somebody else, but don't take it from me. You know, that type thing. And all of you know that there was a lot of giving and a lot of taking. But when it come down to it, though, this is what we come up with. And I personally think that it's a very, very reasonable recommendation from the Budget Committee. But, you know, I appreciate all the effort everybody put in it, though. I really do. But, Ms. Klutz, if you want to continue on, unless the board has questions at this point. If the board has questions, we'll stop and answer questions at this point. Otherwise, we'll move on with the rest of your report. Board members, anybody have any comments or questions, concerns? Well, you won't wait. Do it all at one time. Okay? All right. Ms. Carpenter.
Excuse me. The one meeting that I did miss was our final meeting, and I'm with you, Lynn. I know we spent many, many, many hours on this, and the one thing that I don't see on there, and you can tell me because you were at that meeting, the one thing I don't see on there that I was really wanting, and I know you know
Let me
what I'm
guess.
going
You're talking
to.
about teacher assistants.
Well, that was one, but no, there
Okay.
was another thing that I don't see on there that I was really concerned about and really wanted to see on there. I see the tire truck was one thing, but the other thing that I was real concerned about and wanted to see because I really felt it was something that we could recoup our money on. And when I heard that we didn't have it, and it was only an item that was $20-something thousand, and I knew it could be offset by what we were paying for tires. When I found out we were eyeballing tires, I really wanted to see that put on there. And I knew that we could offset that with, you know, we had that where we could offset that.
You're talking about the wheel alignment machine.
The wheel alignment
Okay.
machine.
Okay.
Now that, you could make that up in what you're paying for tires that are being chewed up. And that's an item that I would like to see put back on, because how many tires are being chewed up?
We had a discussion in Budget Committee, and this must be the meeting that you missed. Anything that we can live within the current budget, so if transportation can save enough money and live within that current budget, she can bring that item back to the Budget Committee and say, I can live within this budget and I can purchase this item, and my recommendation is to go ahead and buy this item. As long as we're not exceeding a current budget, it doesn't need to go on this list. She's using her current budgeted dollars.
So we can get.
She can get it as long as she can live within her current budget.
Okay, because that was something I definitely wanted to see. That was something.
And you know that GPS thing that I brought to you last time?
Yeah.
We can generate enough savings probably from that to get those type items.
Okay.
But we're gonna want to see those savings first before we make those decisions to purchase.
Okay, because that was one item that I didn't see, and the other one was what you said, Lynn. That was another thing that we wanted to see, but y'all must have weighed that out also.
We did. We talked about those in
Oh,
the
okay,
meeting.
okay.
But that's a good point.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. And Ms. Clutch, you may want to elaborate a little bit on that if you feel free to do that. But otherwise, we'll just move on. And I think Cindy's got a question, but we'll get to her in a little bit.
Okay. This document, let me see if I can just, this document is essentially our request to our local government, our county, and I'm showing it based on the way that they fund us. So the first line is ADM funding. They currently, this is 2011, 2012, they currently adopted $39,950,793, which currently puts us at a per pupil funding of $1,369 per pupil. They break our funding down into buildings maintenance funding and grounds maintenance funding, and so I've indicated that for you. $5.5 million for buildings maintenance, grounds maintenance $1.2 million. This does not include the Kannapolis share. I just put Cabarrus County Schools on here for you. So that adds $189 to the per pupil funding for building, $44 for the grounds per pupil. So our total current expense request that is currently adopted is $46,786,000. So over to the right, in 2012, 2013, if we request a flat per pupil funding, so if you look, the 136902 is the same 136902 on the right-hand side, we would be requesting an increase of $906,000 for ADM funding, but we're asking for a flat per pupil funding, which means simply we're only asking for our growth. We're asking for the same level of funding, just give us the money to take care of these new 662 students that are coming into our school system. That's all we're asking for, okay? So that's the $906,000 to the right, the $125,000 for building, and the $29,000 for grounds. There's also a special provision for the salary study recommendations. We do not have a final on that, but once that comes, this is just a holding place because we believe it'll be much more than that. It could be planned year one of 2 or 3. So we've just put that number there as a benchmark. Okay, oops. So if you go down below, I did the same thing with capital outlay funding. We are currently funded at $1,020,000, which is $34.95 per pupil. So if we pull that over and ask for the same amount per pupil for the students we expect to have, it would equal $1,043,000, which would be an increase of $23,000 in capital for us, $23,139. Based on the capital list that we put together this year.
Can you scroll up on the screen? It's easier to see on the monitor than it is on our devices. And you were about to get cut off. We just wanted to be able to see.
Let me see what I can do. Let me see if that'll. It's not wanting to do that for me. Let's try that. It does not want to cooperate with me.
Well, that's okay. It's just a little brighter on that screen and easier to read and see.
It's definitely not cooperating.
Yeah, that's okay.
For me. But the next line is the additional capital request based on the facilities and operations document that we reviewed. Not this last budget meeting, but the meeting before, the March the 26th meeting. It's a significant budget document. Okay. Whoops, got a little crazy. All right, do you have questions on that document? Okay, I think we wanted to go to the end. Okay, this is essentially how we'll spend any additional money that we get from the county. Line 1 would be raises for locally funded positions to match state raises. Now, this is assuming that the state will give us a 3% raise, and we do not know that. We're just preparing in case there is a 3% pay increase. So if there is a 3% pay increase at the state level, local would need to match the locally paid employees 3%. So that's what it would take. They would have to pay the FICA and the retirement on those dollars, and that's what it would take, $817,000. Then there's a provision to increase the employer retirement costs, because that's going up from 13.12% to 13.41%, and that again is for locally paid employees, not anyone else. And then the same thing for the employer hospitalization costs. So if anyone's paid with local dollars, then we need to pay for the increase in hospitalization costs. So that's line item number 3. And then the one line item number 4 that's dropped at the bottom is again to match that provision for the salary study recommendations. Okay. This document is the document you've seen before, and it basically ties the plan together. It's what we did last year, and it uses our fund balance to offset the loss of ARA dollars. And make everything work over the next 2 years. We start with our fund balance. We decrease it for the loss of ARA. We decrease it for the loss of discretionary. Are we?
Next is technology on our screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Monitors.
Oh, okay. I did give you the detailed list. Sorry. Let me go. You have the detailed list of technology. We reviewed that. I can pull that up. There. We reviewed that in our budget session, and I'm asking you to approve that at the end of the night, or submit that for approval. And that's if you have any questions or concerns. So that's technology. And then the facilities and operations, the same way as the document that you've already seen, and you had an opportunity to ask questions and give us your concerns. Okay. And then we have the capital outlay budget request, and again, we did this on the same night that we did facilities and operations. It's the same document. There were no changes. Okay, and now we're back to the fund balance projections, and this is how we tie it all together and we make the numbers work. How we're taking the loss of the ARA dollars from our fund balance. We're taking the loss of the additional discretionary reversion out of fund balance. We have we're taking the growth dollars that we'll get for the 662 students. We're flat funding everyone else. We're not using those, the increase for students in all of our allocations, so we're holding that down, and we're using those dollars to offset the decrease everywhere else. And so that'll leave us with $4.9 million in our fund balance at the end of 2012-2013, and that'll bring us back to, at the beginning of 2013, we'll have to appropriate another 4.6. And you see this current year, we're going to appropriate $7.4 million. And then we're going to step down in the following year, we'll only have to appropriate $4.6 million. And then the following year, we'll only have to appropriate $1.6 million. And that would be a more normal amount to appropriate, is more like $1 million. So we're getting back to our normal appropriation. In 2014, June 2014, we'll only have $3.3 million projected in our fund balance, which is lower than what we had in 2008-2009. So we're back to basically where we were in 2008-2009. We're lower funded, and our fund balance is lower than where we were in 2008-2009. and we have less employees serving our students than we did in 2008, 2009. Although we have many more students to serve than we did in 2008, 2009. Okay? So what I'm asking you for tonight is that I need for you to approve, I need for you to approve on the 16th, the Budget Committee's recommendation for the increases, decreases to the current budget, which that means that basically will be flatlined. I need for you to approve our request to the county at the current per pupil funding at a minimum. I need for you to approve our technology budget recommendations as they're presented. Also the same with the facilities and grounds budget recommendations as presented. And agree to present the capital projects to the county as a needs list in search of a future plan. We know that we can't expect the county to agree to fund $188 million of capital projects, but we would like for them to start thinking and working on a plan for those needs. And also I need for you to agree to the plan to use the fund balance and growth to offset the loss of the R and the Ed Jobs funds as illustrated in that document. And now.
Okay, board members, there you have it. And just to reiterate, in our meeting last week, I think it was last week before last, whenever we talked about the capital projects to the county, we're hoping that we'll get that meeting set up with the county and our board to meet and discuss this at some point. So I'm sure Dr. Shepard and the county manager will be working that out to everyone's liking, I hope, sometime real soon. But anyway, now that Ms. Klutz has made her presentation of the proposed budget, we'd like to take a little while and discuss this. And so what I want to do is ask, we'll start on my right. Ms. Mynatt, do you have any questions concerning the budget proposal or any concerns? And then we'll just come on down the line and hopefully we'll get this part wrapped up and everybody will be
I
happy.
only have one curious question. When they're talking about the land for a new school, they used a figure, I think it's about $65,000 an acre. Was that a previous amount or a reval amount?
That was just an amount that Lynn chose. When the county funds land, they just pay for it. So they won't give us an allocation and us pay for it and us have excess dollars or anything. So it really doesn't
nothing
matter.
specific.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any questions. I do have some comments. First one is for the process, which I've mentioned before, was not the process that was being used when I was on the board before. And I just commend everybody that was involved in that change and that effort and the volunteers who joined that committee and were willing to give that kind of time to something that's this important. It certainly shows tremendous fiscal responsibility on everybody's part. And it's a very intense process, and I think the public should realize that this is not just picking things you'd like to have. This is looking at the whole picture and picking the things you have to have. And my recommendation would be to send all of them to Washington, but that wouldn't work, would it? Another curious thing that I think is important for the public to know when you're discussing this budget, because they don't know, and I don't guess they're expected to know, but they don't know, and so you always hear, well, I don't know what they're spending all that money on, because it's huge numbers to the public. I would like to see before the next meeting what our rank as a system is in administrative positions, in results, just to see what they're getting, what's the bang for the buck, because I think the results are high and the expenses and personnel are low compared to other systems in the state, and I think the public needs to know that. I think that would be good information.
Thank you, Ms. Mynatt. You're absolutely right. Ms. Carpenter, you have anything else you want to add?
Now, Lynn, that's a loaded question. You know I've always got stuff to add. Well, I still have the concerns, and I suppose this is time we need to discuss them, because as when we were in our budget deliberations, one of the things that kept kind of coming to the surface, and it seemed like it was more concerned for the elementary levels. And again, y'all can maybe update me. I'm sorry, again, that I missed the one meeting where I think we kind of finalized a lot of the things. And you may can give me some insight on this, where it was discussed for the tech facilitators that were cut. You know, we gave it to the smaller schools. And I know Long and some of them really needed those 2 facilitators back. And I know that we said if you cut something, you got to give us the money to balance it out. And I know that the money that kept coming up, everybody wanted to use that 175. The 175 was the swap off for the high schools, the ISS people. And of course, as Lynn mentioned earlier, nobody wants to give up anything, but that 175, everybody kept wanting to use that. But that, I think to put those tech facilitators back in, it was roughly 100,000. Was that not roughly, wasn't it around 100,000 to put that back?
Was it 2 technology
Two
centers? So, yeah, it would be-
techs
it
to
would
put
be
them back
100,000.
in. It was roughly $100,000 to put those back in. And it seems like it hit, my understanding, it hit the elementary levels more than anything. And again, that's something I still think we need, we heard that over and over, that was something, you know, if anything could be done to do that was something that was really, you know, that we did last year that hurt.
Absolutely, Carolyn. I mean, all the cuts that we had to make last year, if we look back on that now, and I'm sure Ms. Klutz will agree with me and the other budget committee members will agree, that the hard decisions that we had to make last year, it didn't make our job any easier this year because we did the same thing again that we did last year. But we found out, though, as a committee, that we did such a good job last year, first year doing the Trigo process, that we did such a good job the first year that the second year we had done uncovered those rocks and done discussed those things, and it was like a compromise. You know, do you want to take this to give? Do you want to give this to get this, or what, that type thing? And we just come to a decision that it was better just to, rather than involving employee morale, rather than making the ISS from certified to non-certified, and all of that, and you're talking about the tech facilitators, those type things. Or what it really boiled down to was we just had to just compromise, and the best thing that would be fair for everyone was to limit the increases and limit the decreases, so we're just actually just offset it in areas where it wouldn't affect people. And as you notice, this didn't affect people at all because we stuck with the same idea we did from the beginning, and people first, and I mean, you know, cut things first and keep the people. And so that's what we done. And you noticed on the increases there, we had 2 items that were required. We had to do this. The IB program, we had to do that. That was a requirement. And also the PAM program, that was a requirement. We had to do that. And the tire truck, see, that money all was offset. If you look at it, you'll see that it was offset by the bus mentor pay, and then there was another item there. But see, in transportation, those items offset that totally. But there was some compromise there, and once again, Ms. Klutz can elaborate a little bit more on that, but we had a lengthy discussion on that in our last budget meeting.
And again, I apologize for missing, but one of the reasons I even brought that up, though, I'm thinking we know that we are going to have to have everything online for testing, you know, what is it, 2014, and that's looking past the end of our nose. This is where these facilitators, we're probably going to really need those facilitators. And that's where I'm looking past the end of my nose for this. Yeah, this may be great now, but, you know, we probably are really going to need those facilitators then. And that's why I'm even bringing this up now. You know, that's where those are really going to probably be needed. That's why I'm bringing it up at this point, because, yeah, this is probably great, but they're really missing them now. But that's one point. I want to make that. And then, again, I realize the teacher's assistants, I know that was brought up. That's a big ticket item. That's what we really would do. And again, that would help morale, but that's the other one that I know, but that's a big ticket item. That's not a 20,000, that's a big ticket item. And that is something that I would like to see. I won't take any more time.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. You've done very good. Mr. Kiger, you have your questions. Thank
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot to say, but I will keep this as brief as I possibly can. Ms. Carpenter brings up several good points, and I think what it shows is a microcosm of the budget process in general. You know, the couple items that you've brought up, you can make a very strong argument for and why they need to be there, and there's 6 other people here that may argue against that or may have something else that they'd really like to do, and that just sort of that shows you what we as a system have had to go through. And I would like to echo what Ms. Mynatt said as part of the process and how well we handled what we were just talking about in that microcosm. I think I said it when I sat here last year that I was blown away with how well that process went and how much input we got from various people and ideas and the ideas that we ended up with. And I think we've hit a home run again. My hat is off to everybody that spent the countless hours and thousands of hours and that are sitting here tonight spending more time. They could be home with their families, but they're interested enough to be here and see what the questions are and see what the discussion's about. So I can't thank you enough for your time and effort. We've got a difficult job. There's no question about it. The funding is tight. We've got a responsibility unlike anybody else. We have to take children of any age, of anybody that comes to us, that comes to the door, and make sure and try to make them a productive member of our society. And that's a huge burden. And to know that I think we've set a path. The other thing I said last year, I wanted to thank the people that came here before I got here, because I think that set us, this budget committee and this process started long before I got here, and to know that we're on a good path and we're on firm footing comforts me to know that we will continue to make good, solid decisions as we go forward. So the other thing that Ms. Mynatt asked about the information as we compare to other systems, that absolutely has to be part of the equation. No question about it, because that's questions that we get, that we talk about, that people don't understand where we rank with how well a job that we do in turning out students. So if that can be part of at least the overall packet of information, for lack of a better term, then I think that would certainly be beneficial to us. So I don't specifically have any questions about what you've presented. I think you did an excellent job of showing us. It's a lot of information to digest. I've started to go through it. I'm not through. It's just a lot to take in. But I did at least want to make a couple comments that on the process and the information that Ms. Mynatt had asked for, because I think that's very important. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kiger, and we'll move down to Ms. Furtenbaugh, which is another member of our Budget Committee, and so, Ms. Furtenbaugh?
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Chair, I was not able to participate much, but I did share opinions on email with our CFO as issues came up. So I see some of those got carried forward for what it was worth this year. Just Ms. Carpenter, I wanted to comment on the technology facilitators. From my understanding, there are some of our schools who have traded months of employment to use kind of a media assistant to assist the technology facilitator. So not maybe a full-time. I can give you an example later. I'm not going to do it here, but I can give you a real example. So they may not be called a technology facilitator, but they are helping in that avenue of whether it be with the computers in the school, helping students, whatever case. But that is a real-life example. From the budget slide, Kelly, on slide 7, that's the graph that shows the increase in ADM, but the flat line in staff. Mm-hmm. And this may be more of a question for Jason. I'll catch you off guard there. But how are we going to staff teaching additional students? Granted that 600 plus is not going to be evenly across all the schools. You need to come to a mic, I think. Or Kelly knows the answer. But how are we going to do that? Because we have already had raised class sizes. We've had inquiries that happen continually throughout the year about offering classes, certain classes in high school, which we can't do. But I'm more concerned actually about that elementary and middle, where there's a fixed number of kids in a classroom and they float either as teams or with one teacher all day. And you can only put so many kids in our classrooms, especially our older schools.
Yeah, and the math only works only works one way. So the bottom line is we will have higher class size next year because we're going to educate 600 more kids with the same number of staff. And so we handed out allotments to principals last week, and we held back some of those teachers because we know we will expand some programs. And as you know, in the K-1-2, we have a requirement by the state to be under, I believe it's 23 students in every single classroom. And so inevitably during the year we have to address those concerns as they come. So how does that play out in an elementary classroom? It does play out with multi-age classrooms at times.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, if
Yeah.
you're preparing already for the multi-age.
Yeah, and so for example, so what we're doing to prepare for that is at the April and May elementary principals meetings, we're going to help guide them in the setup of their schedules so that they're preparing in advance for those multi-age classrooms and bringing teachers who are teaching those multi-age classrooms together. There is research, there is best practice around teaching in a multi-age environment. There are good results even around that. Notice how we're saying multi-age and not combo. It's kind of accentuating the positives of that classroom, but that is one strategy to deal with the class size in those areas. So
Well, and-
it's
and-
a reality, yeah.
I think I've shared with you before, I'm a parent of a child who went through, years ago, a multi-age as Weinkauf grew, and then a combo class, a 2-3. So we've experienced it both ways, good experiences,
Good, I'm glad to hear.
really would do it again in a flash. So it's
That's
not,
great to hear.
it's scary when you start it as a
Yeah.
parent of young children,
Yeah.
but it worked out beautifully. Mr. Chairman, could we ask our assistant superintendent to just make a comment about the kindergarten registration this week?
It's going on. I don't know what you're looking for as
Just
far as
to let the
enrollment
public
or-
know.
Yes, okay. Kindergarten registration is going on, so it's time to get the kids enrolled in school, and we look forward to seeing those kiddos in the fall.
And I think every elementary school has it posted on their website.
Correct.
Because the sooner we know the numbers,
Right.
the better planning they all can do.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I still have a couple more questions, but, and actually, I guess, Jason, this one is actually for you. Will the magnet schools have the same ratio as regular schools?
That's correct. Absolutely. They do not get a separate ratio for funding. They don't get smaller class sizes. Yeah, that is true.
Okay, I think that's the only other curriculum one. Kelly, from the transportation one, the bus mentor pay is operating cost, but the truck is capital?
Which means that you'll be able to use that capital cost one time, and then the next year. They'll use that capital cost or that operating cost as a one-time capital, and then next year that cost will go back into operating. So, and they'll be able to benefit.
But is it going
that.
to stay in the transportation budget, or do they give it up because they're reusing it 1 year?
It's a local expense, or it's a local cost. It's budgeted in the local, so
Okay.
it'll stay in local.
Okay, so it could be used by any department then, based on what the budget committee
could be.
decides?
It could
Okay,
be.
I just want to clarify that it's kind of not a transportation stash. We gave it up 1 year, now we're going to keep reusing it when somebody else may need it.
Yeah, the system could decide to move it out.
Okay. Can you tell us, the $1 million you put for the request to address the salary study, what percentage of our total salary base does $1 million represent?
You know.
Did you happen to
it
look
is-
that up by chance?
so I did. That is so interesting that you did that, but,
The reason I ask is because I believe the county gave a 1.5% increase to county employees last year, and it kind of flew under the radar in the papers and whatnot, but I don't know that that even addresses 1.5%.
give me, do you have other questions you can ask while I'm getting this?
Just through the budget committee, was there any review of any money recovered and how that's being reused, either from energy, from things like the reduction in the software programs and anything that improved as far as technology expenditures, any reduction in curriculum instruction programs and not needing to buy new materials? Was there any kind of discussion of recovery, and how was that reused?
We certainly have been reviewing our efficiencies as we've gone through the budget process. And as generally as those efficiencies are reviewed as far as technology and E-rate, and so as we collapsed and build those and found those efficiencies, as they refer to technology, then we're able to buy more technology. As they refer to facilities and we take vehicles off the road, then we're able to buy more facilities or upgrade or update more facilities. It usually just goes back into those current budgets, and that seems to be more effective. And especially as we mentioned in Budget Committee, the committee that Carolyn is talking about missing, it motivates our staff to find these areas of efficiencies and work stronger and work harder to make sure that these areas happen, because there's reward and there's incentive to make sure that they get these things done.
Yeah, okay. Yes, just the question about what percent $1 million represents.
Yes. And of course, it is right here.
But Kelly, are we keeping a running total of that? It would be really helpful if we kept a total of the total of all the efficiencies. And if we've got a grand total of that, it'd be great to know. I mean, it's great to know that these departments are reusing it, but it would be great to know what kind of grand total that we have saved on this, or what we have done by doing this whole operation. You know, so if we can kind of get that, it would be great to know that, what we've been able to save and reinvest in these things. So if we could maybe get that somewhere along the line, that would be great to know what we've been able to do and what we've been able to reinvest in that.
It's hard to keep, to keep an exact number like energy consumption, especially when energy prices go up 6% and then you're decreasing. So it's really hard to keep your finger on it. I mean, we can give you an estimate, but as far as an exact number, it's a little bit difficult. Cindy, your $141 million payroll at 3% is $4.2 million. That's the entire payroll.
So 141 million, and that includes teacher supplements, every piece, including state and local? Okay.
And federal, anything. 4.2 million.
Okay, Ms. Furtenbaugh, you finished? Sometimes you've got your answers just right at your thumb, and sometimes you got to look for them, and a lot of times you just don't know what to expect. But Mr. Furr, it's your turn. Do you have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I got one comment. First of all, I'd just like to publicly thank all of you folks that were on the committee, especially the employees and the board members, because I know you have other commitments, and I'm just thankful I was not a part of that committee. And never wished to be, never know. But anyway, I got one question. If you go back to page 11 there, where we were just at, where Cindy was at, and I'm sure you got the answer here, but the 3% you want to match. Okay, would that not be continuation costs as well, or am I missing a boat somewhere?
Which number? Tell me again.
Page 11 on the
Line 1.
Yeah.
It is. It's above the line. It is continuation cost. Everything above the line is continuation.
Okay. So, but down here you have on line. Okay.
Number
above
4.
line 3
Yeah.
is.
3 and above.
Well, why would continuation cost be like the $1 million? That totals. I got it.
Okay.
I see it. Cindy tried to offer. She wanted me to take some of her questions to ask you, but I didn't want to do that. But I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to ask Dr. Shepherd if he'd make a few comments, because he attended most of the meetings, if not all of them. And so, Dr. Shepherd, if you'd like to have your comment.
Just a couple of things. I'd like to add my word of thanks to those on the committee members that are here tonight. You got it? Okay. Particularly, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chair. You didn't know I was going to say this when you asked me to speak, but we went through a lot of scenarios in this budget development, and I want to commend you and for your leadership in those meetings, to have the courage to say we made good decisions last year, and we're going to recommend that we hold the line. I think that that might seem like the easy way out, but it was anything but the easy way out. It was the most difficult way out, because we have a lot of people that want us to make increases and want to recommend that decreases occur in someone else's department. It's not as seldom as it in their own department, so I'm very thankful for that. I want you to know, after your recommendation was, the committee's recommendation was made, we brought this to our principals in our principals meeting last week, and Mr. Van Hukelum had a very good idea toward the end. We were asking principals, how do you feel about this recommendation? And he said, why don't we do a quality tool consensogram? And it was on that door until, I'm not sure, maybe while I was gone, at the end of the week it disappeared. But we asked for principals, and in a semi-private way, to show us their level of support for this budget recommendation. And I would say, if you're on that instrument, you're looking at totally support and totally disagree, and somewhere in the middle. We had probably half of our principals, maybe slightly less than that, in the middle. I wish we had gotten the things we asked for, but I'm glad that we didn't take away the things that we heard we might lose. We had 2 people on the disagree column, now of 39 principals, and then 1 person in between the middle and the disagree. So you have 2 that disagree, 1 little close to disagree. How many did you say, Kelly? You're 25? Okay, and then we had 18 in the middle, and then 25 of our 39. Is that correct? You've got this data with you. 25 up, 9 in the middle. Okay. Well, I'm stating it a little more severe then. So 9 in the middle, 25 up. Yes, 2 on the other end. The bottom line is to tell you that our principals had the courage to say we support this budget recommendation, and so I'm very proud of that, even though it's a very difficult thing to do. As you were exactly right, our TFs had we had issues with TF employment. We had issues with teacher assistant employment. We would love to be able to add back things that we lost last year, and I'm hoping that as the budget outlook is clear with the state, that there will be the opportunity to add some things back, even if our discretionary cuts do disappear over time, then we can begin to add things back. It is a very difficult time for the state. I understand that. For our local government, I understand how difficult it is with property valuations decreasing more than they thought would be. Our local government has been very supportive of education through the years. We're going to ask them to continue to be very supportive and to do actually more in years to come with our facilities. As you see, $180 million worth of needs on facility needs that we don't have any way of addressing immediately in 1 year. So we have high expectations for what we're going to request this year and going into the future. But I would say I'm very pleased again with the process this year, with the leadership from our finance department, from our committee's work. It is my recommendation that we take this recommendation from the committee and move forward, and hopefully as a result we can continue our focus on keeping people employed and finding ways to get the things that we need, the tools that we need for those employees to use in carrying out their work. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Shepherd, for your comments there, and we appreciate your efforts, too, for being there. We know you're all very busy in meetings here and there, but he made these budget meetings, though, and made his voice known. Okay, board members, the last page of Ms. Klutz's presentation is what she's asking for us to approve and pass on to the consent agenda. Have you had a chance to look over those, and is everyone okay with us going to the consensus agenda for the 16th, or do you have, I know Ms. Mynatt has asked for a report, and Mr. Kiger has asked for that same report, and
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I believe because of the magnitude of the budget that we should have it as an action item regardless of agreement of the board.
Yeah, well, I think you're probably right too, but that's what I'm asking. You just didn't give me a chance to get there. But does everybody pretty much agree with what we have here, other than a couple of reports and little things that we need. Because I mean, I want us to air it out now and have it pretty much done, except for the couple little final things that we'll final up on the business meeting there. But if everybody's good with that, then we'd ask our board clerk to put this on the action agenda for our business meeting. Yes, Ms. Carpenter.
I only have one other question. And again, sorry again. The only other question that I have and concern I had, which was raised, was the fee structure that we were losing. Are we going to be able to make that up? Again, this was brought up during the fees that we were going to lose because of legislation that had been passed. And one question I have, and Kelly, you probably can answer it right off the bat. Last year we were going to start charging that fee, the supply fee. The legislation was passed. Does that rule out us being able to put that supply fee in place? Remember last year, we put in that supply.
$4, the $10 supply
Yeah.
fee, the $5 and $5.
Yeah, the legislation that was put in effect, does that apply to
Right.
that?
That's CTE only, and it's different, right.
Okay.
So what we put in, excuse me, what we put in does not affect that then?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, honey, it does not.
Or that other did not get done, so we are going to have, are we going to be able to make up that difference?
The way that we addressed that in Budget Committee was that there will be some growth funds in CTE that we did not talk about, and we did not indicate that we would use those for other things in our budget process. So whether there'll be enough to offset the supply fee that they will not be able to charge, I'm not sure. But there will be additional dollars because of the growth, because of the 662 students. So there will be additional funds there that they didn't have last year.
Because supply-wise, we're going to have to try to make that up somewhere, and I didn't know if we needed to add something. And the reason I'm bringing this up is this some adjustment that we need to make in this budget, or has it been done in this budget to make up for this? Have you allowed this in this budget? In other words, in putting all this together, we know that this legislation has been put in place. When you've put this together, this was brought up. When this has all been put together, this was brought up to us. Have we put this in there so we can request it from the county commissioners? Okay, we know that these kits that you referred to, these biology kits or whatever, they're not going to be paid for anymore. That this is not going to be paid for because we can't ask for this. Certain things, we
do not
can't
have
teach the children if we don't have the equipment to do it. Have we somehow?
We do not have a definite solution. We have some possibilities and some things in mind. We do not have a definite solution to many opportunities that we have in front of us. So it's one of many opportunities.
Okay. All right. That's that.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Everybody clear? Everybody good? Okay. All right, let's move on then. So we got notation made. This will go to the action agenda, Ms. Monroe. All right, now we'll move on to 4.02, the budget amendments, and Ms. Klutz, you're already there, so we're ready for you to give us this report.
All right.
While you're getting that ready, I want to once again thank all the Budget Committee members for being here. Thank you all for your hard work. Thank you for your support, and good night. See you again soon.
Okay, we'll start with our state budget amendment, where we're reclassing some funds there, and we've done, this time of year, we get our sales tax refund, and the procedure for that is you have to put it in one function and move it into another function to be able to spend it. So you're going to see a lot of that in these budget amendments. So you're seeing that here. You're going to see a lot of that in federal. We're reclassing some funds here to pay some teachers. We received additional money for substitutes. You receive that every month. That's normal. Recording fines and forfeitures in our technology fund. And we received a developmental day allocation. And that's a normal revenue stream that we receive. Questions on state? Okay. We'll go to our local. I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair, if I could ask, this kind of crosses over to the sheets. The
Okay.
sales tax
Yes.
refunds, there's some on state and there's some on federal.
Yes.
Why? What's federal sales tax?
Anytime we spend any dollar, so you buy equipment in federal funds or you buy equipment in state funds, we get,
Oh, it just has to go back to the fund it originally came from. Okay,
Yes,
got it. I was
exactly.
trying to figure out what kind of federal.
you get it back and then you get to spend it. But you have to move it around. They make it a little bit difficult. So, okay. Local, we're going to appropriate our fund balance for our magnets for our facilities upgrades. We did an earlier appropriation for our magnets, and that was for the technology. But this is just for the facilities upgrades portion, so that we can go ahead and get started so that those will be ready for school when we start. Okay. This is our federal budgets. You're going to see a good number of sales tax refunds. The first one is a Title I reallocation, where we had to hold for supplemental educational services. Those are basically the tutoring services that we have to hold those dollars. So we held those for a while, and then Title I said, okay, you can give that to your schools and let the schools spend those dollars, and so that's a good thing. So we gave that to the schools and allowed them to spend those dollars. You're seeing sales tax and just reallocation or reclassing of funds there for your federal. Additional dollars into EC PRCO 60, and those are basically kind of mid-year adjustments that we're expecting. Again, sales tax and reclass. And then there's an indirect cost. The indirect cost rate was high, projected high at the beginning of the year, and so all of the federal programs had to be adjusted later. Okay, so that's federal. I'll take questions on federal. And then we have capital. The top entry is things that Lynn Whitkey has presented to you prior and has gotten your approval for. The one below is to record a DPI payment for a state bus lease. This is when the state buys our buses and they pay for them, and they just send me the money and I have to document it. That's essentially all that it is. I'm a pass-through. Okay. Now, Kids Plus, this is when the budget was set at the beginning of the year. It was projected a little high. As we've gone through the year, we realized that we probably aren't going to collect that much revenue. The kids aren't enrolling. Parents aren't enrolling as many as we projected, so we've reduced our revenue. We've reduced our budget to match that, and this is how that is reflected. This was planned. They realized that through the year. This is good management. Okay. And then the last one is we're recording additional revenue as we get that through the Mary Frances Wall Center, and these are tuition children, parents and tuition, and I don't like to record that until I see it coming in, so I don't overstate my revenue. So there we go. All
Okay,
right.
thank you, Ms. Klutz, for bringing these budget amendments to us. Board members, you have any comments, questions, or do we move on to the consent agenda for our business meeting? Everybody good on the consent? Okay, Ms. Klutz, we're going to move to the consent agenda for this on the 16th.
you.
And before you step down, I just wanted to thank you so much for all the effort. Folks, I don't know if you know it. I mean, I just can't say enough good about, I know you have more things to do during the day than working with budgets and things. And so keeping in mind, guys, that the budget committee, this is something extra. This is something, an extra plate, in other words, that you've had to carry. And I really, for one, appreciate it. And I know the rest of them, the members do too, because it's, you know, it's just diligence on your part and commitment. And I thank you for it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, board members, we're going to move on now. So we can get Dr. Sane up, and she's going to be bringing her report to us about the early college calendar. Thank you, Dr. Sane.
Thank you. This is a change in the calendar that we first shared with you last month. This represents 180 school days. It begins and aligns with the college calendar to make things easier for students. Do you have any questions?
Okay, board members, anybody have any questions about the early college calendar? Okay, we'll move it on to the consent agenda. Thank you, Dr. Sane.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, you've got the next one for the Head Start grant application?
I do.
Okay, we'll let you start on that when you get ready. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just going to give you an overview. As you know, the Head Start application is large and weighty. So I just want to give you a couple of the highlights. We serve about 176 children, 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. And this is something that we share with you every year as our plan for the next year. We start with a community assessment, and again, our community assessment showed us it was nothing new, everything we already knew, that we need to continue to provide parent training for social and emotional skill development of children, that we need to continue working with our Hispanic community in that 57% of our students are ESL, and continue to support those. And we need to be sure that we are aligning academic student success with the expectations of K-12 and track student outcomes into that setting. So there are 2 major goals that we need to set for Head Start. Number 1, we want all of our children who go through Head Start to be proficient and successful in kindergarten as measured by formative and summative assessments. And in addition to that, we continue to refine, and we want our training opportunities to be provided to families in the areas of social and emotional behavior and development. We think that's critical. And just a little note on what we do. We have 10 classrooms, as I mentioned, 176 children. 40 of those children are in the 3-year-old class, 136 are 4-year-olds, and will go on to kindergarten next year. We partner with North Carolina Pre-K, formerly More at 4, for dual identification of 65 4-year-old children. And we continue to use the state-approved curriculum called Creative Curriculum. We are working closely, just as other schools are working, to develop the PLC model. We continue to provide transportation for our families, which we think is critical in that the families that we serve are definitely families in poverty. And we continue to work with our bilingual family services staff. Any questions?
Board members, this is a pretty routine report, I think, that as Dr. Sane said, that we deal with every year to keep our Head Start program going forward. So does anybody have any comments or questions at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted, to make a comment, and I don't have the data to describe it, but just in general, when we look at our goals of having kids on grade level at 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade, and as that goes, programs like Head Start are so important, but yet I think last year we had 300 or 400 children on a waiting list who can't get into these, and so those kids are coming in with no or very little or no preparation into our kindergarten classes, and we wonder why we can't get them on grade level at 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. So, and I know this has not been important to the current legislature in Raleigh, but we need to keep emphasizing that if you want us to get to this goal, you have to fund it at the beginning. So,
That's exactly right. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ms. Furtenball. The facility, 176 kids, that's at max, I'm sure, because you've only got just a limited classroom space. And so it's just a lack of the facility there, because we could easily have 400, 500, 600 kids there, I'm sure.
Part of that is the legislature. I mean, if they would grow the number of pre-K slots that they fund, we would be more than glad to find a home for them.
Absolutely. Okay, board members, we'll be moving this on to the consent agenda. Oh, Carolyn, I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to echo what Cindy said. I have been the Head Start liaison since I've been on this board, which is 5 years. And we have had a waiting list ever since I've been on this board. I'm on the board, on the Head Start, and it's always been anywhere from 200 to 300 students, always. So this has been ever since I've been on there. And Cindy, you've been on longer than I have, and probably it's been that way since you've been on the board.
Mr.
And
Kiger.
I did want to make one comment as well. The only, I guess this is a very open-ended comment, but at Long Preschool, in Mr. Whitkey's budget committee and subcommittee hearings, there's a lot of need, physical need at Long. And it may behoove us as a board to try to figure out these 176 kids, if that's the best place for them, if they need to be somewhere else. And I say that with an eye at 30,000 feet and not right at the base of the program, just because of the expense of what it would take to really keep Long at even a minimal type environment to learn.
I absolutely agree with you. The one thing, though, we have to remember is that there is a pod that was purchased by Head Start with the help of the federal government. So when we're considering what to do with that, the pod goes with Head Start unless we would like to buy it.
Well, that's good. Thank you, Dr. Sain, and I believe we're going to move on now. So 4.04, the Head Start grant application will go to the consent agenda. And so, Dr. Sain, we'll continue on with your report on the policy revisions here on the first reading.
Okay. All of the policies are revisions policies. There are no new policies in this. And I want to take a moment to say that the policy committee is working very hard on two policies. One, social media, which is something that Cabarrus County took the lead on a couple of years ago. The other thing we're working on is distribution of literature, non-instructional literature to students or with schools. So we're working very hard on those. So for tonight, what I'm presenting to you, these policies, basically the changes are required. There are one or two with language optional, but everything else is required, and these are the easy ones. So rather than read each one, if you have a question, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, board members, you have any questions? As Dr. Sain said, most of these are just minor changes. Everybody good with the consent agenda? Ms. Carpenter?
There's only one I'd like pulled that we can just vote on, and that would be 7425. Just one I would like to vote on.
All right. Did you have any corrections for that policy?
No, I
Okay.
just want to just have it pulled so we can vote on it separately.
No problem.
Okay, so we'll have all of
The
these
rest of them could go
go
on
into the consent agenda,
yeah.
except 7425, school administrator contracts, will be going on the action agenda. Okay?
They know me.
Okay.
They know.
Well, well, I won't say anything. We know.
We know Carol.
We know
We know
where
Carol.
Carolyn's issues are with contracts. Okay, then, so we have that settled then. So now we can move forward to our technology report with Dr. Probst, Dr. Kelly Probst, Ms. Jennifer Jenkins, and Ms. Patty Freeman. I think they're all here, and so you have the podium. Thank you.
Good evening. I thank you for introducing Jennifer and Patty. I just want to make sure that you all know that two of them will be part of our plan introduction tonight. Last summer, when the state legislators decided that teachers would not get a raise for another, it's been 4 years, they also said, well, let's cut down on their paperwork. And they adopted this Teacher Paperwork Reduction Act as part of a payment for not getting a raise. And one of the things they said was no longer do LEAs need to write a technology plan. At the same time, when we're seeing that, we also realize, well, if you're going to file for E-rate, you need to have a state plan. It has to be approved by your Board of Education and DPI. So it was kind of ironic that they said you didn't have to do one, but you really do. The drafts were due back in October, and we've had many, many edits up to this point, and the final plans are due to Raleigh in May. The plan is a 2-year plan. The previous plan had been for 3 years, and as you know, technology changes so often that we thought it was appropriate to have a 2-year plan. There are 5 components of the plan. Again, the template is not anything we could change. It is as required by the state. There are 5 strategic areas. The first one involves shared services, how you can stretch those dollars and work together with other LEAs and or other agencies to try to share services. The access to personal teaching and training devices, making sure that all schools and children have access to digital technology, including what is the district doing to go towards digital textbooks, making sure that professional development is offered for all our educators in the district related to technology, and then 21st century leadership skills for using technology for our leaders. We do have a technology committee. Mrs. Holly Blackwater is the board representative. Barry Shoemaker is our community representative, and Patty and Jennifer also serve on that team. In addition, we have administrators, teachers, TFs, and media coordinators on that committee, and engineers. We sent our plan up to Raleigh in November, and we received positive feedback with a few changes. We sent it back up in January, and we were told that it looks like it's good and go ahead and take it towards your board, to your board. We also made sure that we took the strategic plan, although the strategy areas are labeled different in the technology plan from the state. We did make sure we went through our strategic plan and put appropriate alignment. And then there is budget funding. It's we're coming to you with the plan. Budget came to you before us. We are told by DPI to go ahead and submit the plan as the LEA would want it to be funded. If there are changes once we know funding, then we will submit those changes next fall. Our first strategy was the shared services model, and this is one that the state told us that they were really pleased and have been following our activities with the county and Kannapolis City. Obviously, we had Project 1 where we moved our data center, and we're in the process of moving to Project 2, which is the shared storage with the county, which should happen about the end of April. We are currently operating on the state filtering as well as our old filtering appliance, and within a couple weeks we should be turning that off. That's a savings of close to $80,000 for next year. We've applied for the state firewall. They're telling us that we should have that by the end of May, and that will be a savings of $20,000. We are hoping that the state will go to a state email for all state employees, and at that point we would apply for that service as well. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Patty, who's going to talk to us about Strategy 2.
Good evening. Strategy number 2 is universal access to personal teaching and learning devices. And we have $1 million budget that we deal with every year to refurbish our machines. Our schools have been very generous to pick up calls for technologies in their own school and are putting it where they need it as they can. The current sites with districts one-to-one, we would like for all of our students to have one-to-one. We can at this time, but we do have several schools that are at that point. And they are the STEM schools at Coltrane Webb and J.N. Freeze, the early college, the PLC, and the IB school at J.N. Freeze. And we're also going to have another STEM school this coming year at Central Cabarrus that will have the one-to-one. And again, we would like to get this to all of our students so they can have that same great opportunity. We're also piloting a bring your own device, and we are in the process of, well, I lost my place, a GuestNet. We are creating a GuestNet can't say network, a network for the students and teachers. And we're also piloting a virtual desktop where students can actually borrow a computer and take it home and have access to the technologies. Strategy 4 is statewide access to digital teaching and learning resources, including digital textbooks. We have a lot of sites that we use that are online, such as Discovery Education, which you have generously purchased for us. That is a multimedia program where students can go in and teachers can show wonderful videos to their students. We have had over 80,000 hits to that site this year. We also have Gaggle, which you have purchased for us and allows student email accounts, and that is for our grades K through 8, and we want to continue using these programs. We are trying to go to more online resources and to get away from the print as we move along.
Okay, we're going to ask Jennifer to pick up with strategy 4.
Strategy 4 is for the statewide model of embedded professional development, and I can honestly say, coming from a district previously that did not have a technology facilitator, the technology facilitator plays an important role in professional development for the school. And all of these folks, most of them have their national boards, they have their masters in instructional technology, they are impact award members for their school, and we also had a technology facilitator at Robinson be teacher of the year this year. So I think that speaks highly of that group of people.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just suggest a clarification on here, Jennifer.
Sure.
It says each school has a TF except. I think if we could say a dedicated TF except for shared, because if someone who doesn't know what's really going on there, it looks like those schools don't have any use of a TF, and they do.
Okay, we'll
So,
we'll fix
thank you.
that. Thank you. This year, I mean, there's a lot of technology that could happen in a district, but our focus this year has been on Discovery Ed, the new implementation of Gaggle, which is our student email system that we have in place, smartboard integration, Google Docs, mobile devices, and we've paid especially a lot of interest with Common Core and Revised Bloom's taxonomy. So we are working with curriculum and instruction to make it so that technology is integrated in the curriculum and it's not isolated. And our last Common Core Day on March the 26th, just a couple weeks ago, the technology facilitators and media coordinators planned the entire day, which was a mandatory staff development. And they planned professional development based on their school needs. And so it was a big success, and we had a lot of positive feedback from that. We are working constantly, Patty and I, with curriculum and instruction, with Jason, to make sure that we're aligning technology with what the intention and the direction of the district goes in as far as instruction.
Say anything about the tech camp?
We would love to have a tech camp. Carolyn can attest to that. Unfortunately, with the reductions with tech facilitators, we've had to delay that, but we are looking into alternatives for that for staff, because that was always a big hit with a lot of the teachers and the staff. It's a good way to kick off the school year. The fifth strategy talks about 21st century leadership in all districts, and the objectives that we highlighted in our plan were the partnerships that we have with businesses and industry, but the Cannon Grant was a grant that was applied for that helped pay for the resources at Coltrane and J.M. Freeze. We have several schools that on their own have applied for grants through Windstream and have won those. And they used that money. They purchased technology devices for their school. Another strategy that we've added to the plan and was discussed here tonight is the reinstatement of the tech facilitators at those schools where they are sharing a position, and also put their 2 months or 2 weeks back in for them to be there at the school before the teacher arrives, because they play such an integral part in the startup of school. So that was included in our plan. We were put that in. Another group that I think we tend to overlook, that's just my opinion, is administrators. They're just busy day to day with operations for their school, and they have limited time to attend a professional development or a training. And yet they're asked to evaluate teachers and their use of technology in the new teacher evaluation. And a lot of times we overlook those groups, and so we're trying to figure out a way to, when they are at a meeting or anytime we can provide some type of technology professional development for those folks, because they need to know what 21st century skills are required, and just to make the overall application of school run a little bit better. And the state of North Carolina has proposed a draft evaluation instrument for technology facilitators and media coordinators. So that's a big part of our tech plan, is developing a strategy to make sure we train all those folks so they'll be able to evaluate them in their job.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Patty. I will say one thing about the new evaluation instrument, especially for tech facilitators, is that instrument has absolutely no break-fix component in it. And without our TFs in our district, there is no way that 15,000 computers and smartboards could operate as efficiently as they do. Our TFs are just incredible. And while this is a 2-year budget, and I think we've all agreed, since it's going to consent agenda, that we won't be getting the 2 TFs back, nor will we be getting the 2 weeks of employment, I will happily look forward to the presentation to next year's budget committee, and that is a 2-year plan. Okay, so now it goes to year 2. Final comments. I've just basically told you it's a working document. If there's not alignment pending budget, then we can send revisions next fall. And I think, Ms. Carpenter, earlier tonight you brought up the testing. And I'll just leave this with the question of, are we ready? It is a requirement by 2014-15. I think the state is still working on the model, what the EOGs and EOCs will look like, how long will they be, how many test sessions can you offer in a day. But that's really not where we should be focused. I don't want to see children just touching technology when they get assessed. They need to be using it every day. I can't imagine being a 3rd grader and told to take an EOG online if you have not been in front of a computer and used it during the day. So that's something that we will be talking about in next year's budget meetings. And at this point, do we have any questions or comments?
Okay, board members, you've heard this report from these ladies, and I'd like to start on Mr. Furr's side for comments and questions.
Well, I'm an expert in technology, and but no, I think you guys do an outstanding job, and I have no comments.
Thank you, Ms. Furr. Okay, Ms. Furtenbaugh.
That's Carolyn down there. No, I just think, y'all are doing the best you can with not having ever enough. It's kind of like the stepchild. Unfortunately, in the early days, people didn't understand technology when I was on this board, and so therefore it was hard to get it, including commissioners, where a lot of the money came from. It was hard to get it built up. And to your point, Pat, I think you said about the $1 million, to maximize that money, our finance officers have always said, let's use it as lease money. So from the standpoint of doing the most you can, you're doing that with it. But I wanted to share just a little story, since you all know I know a kindergarten teacher pretty well right now. And she was telling me one day about the using the laptop cart with the kindergartners. And so I was saying, well, how exactly do they do this? Like, do you have to go on and you and the TA log on for them? She said, you've got to be kidding. They come to I guess by tables, they come to the cart and they get their laptops and they have a number or something they're supposed to get. And they go on and they have the lids flipped up. And she said, they're on those computers before you even turn around. So it's amazing that 5-year-olds are taking advantage. We said they haven't touched technology until they're hitting a test, but those laptop carts are so beneficial right now for the kids to use them on a regular basis.
And I will say this was the 2nd year that we no longer do just a desktop renewal. We are moving forward with the laptops, and I agree with you, that allows more kids to be touching those computers.
Thank you, Ms. Furtenbach. Yeah, I can remember, I probably couldn't even spell computer when I was 5 years old, and I'm sure some of these kids are in the same boat. Either they can do the computer, they can work on the laptops and things, but they probably couldn't even spell it. But that's the way that goes. Mr. Kiger, you have your comments.
Yes, Dr. Probst, you asked a rhetorical question at the beginning of your presentation, and I'm just going to hit on it again and provide my support. You asked, what are we doing to get to digital textbooks? And I hope we're doing something, because at some point in time, I hope that's where we are, that the kids can download their books or whatever they need, they carry it around, and that the backpacks are a thing of the past. And so anyway, there's no answer to that. I know you guys are doing as much as you can with what you have, as many people in our district are doing, and doing an outstanding job. But that is something that I hope to see come to fruition at some point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Kiger. Now we'll do Ms. Carpenter.
You can't spell it, but now you're using one, right? Now you're using it. Well, I want to say, I tried to get you those. I tried to get you those.
I think everybody thought I called you before the meeting. Tell them I didn't.
No, you didn't. No, I've been trying to get that. Well, as you said, as I mentioned earlier, I hope we are going to be ready when. What was that? I hope we are going to be ready when 2014 comes around. But then, too, we've got to be ready if the lights go off, too. We've got to be ready both ways. But hopefully we will be ready for that. And I appreciate your department for where we are now. And we've got to keep working on it. And, like I say, I know we're not where we need to be, but we're getting there. But thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Ms. Mynatt.
20 years ago, when I first joined the school board, computers were, you had a few, and just seen light years of change. And so just project another 20 years from now, heaven knows what these kids will be using and what will be available. And so we never are going to catch up. We're never going to have enough money, but the public needs to understand that, and they need to know how critical it is. And I'm going to kind of tell a story as Cindy did. She knows of my grandson. I don't know if she's ever met him, my daughter's son. The picture that he chose to have in his high school annual was of him standing at about age 2 on the rungs of a chair, reaching up to his daddy's computer. And today he's 28, and he has an excellent job in the gaming industry. And it's critical for our kids that we do this and stay abreast. And I know you try as hard as you can, and you must feel like you're running on a treadmill that's going faster and faster. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mynatt. Thank all the rest of the board members. Now, I'd like to ask Dr. Shepard. He has a couple of comments he wants to make.
Just like to add that I appreciate the patience of the tech department as we have honored people over the last few years in our budget, trying to keep people employed. But I've said a number of times to our technology or to our budget committee, but I want to say this to the public and to the board tonight. In order to reach the 2014 goal of having enough computers to do the assessment that the state expects, the state is not going to give us the money to do that. They have made it clear to superintendents that for us to put the technology in our classrooms, we're going to have to do it at the local level. And to tie this into our earlier budget discussion, if you notice, our capital outlay allotment has dropped from $3.5 million to $1 million and some odd thousand. We're going to have to work as a community to bring that figure back up at a minimum. I'm committed to, now that we've hopefully weathered the brunt of the storm economically, I'm committed to working with our technology department to achieve the vision for technology that we all have. And I want to make that known tonight and know that any funding that we can find for technology in the future, I know that our finance department is eager to help us find that. We appreciate your patience, but we're ready to take some action. Thank you.
Okay, ladies, thank you so very much for the report, and we're going to move right along. And our next is 4.7, Mr. Whitkey. if you're ready, we'll have your report here about the bids. And also, when you finish, if you want to, you can go back to 3.3 and we'll get your report on the QSCB, since I know that you were detained at the commissioners' meeting. So let's go ahead and knock out the Harrisburg and the Cox Mill bids, and then we'll go to the QSCB report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to take you to the, hopefully you can see that, the reference letter that was prepared by McKnight, Smith, Ward, and Griffin Engineering. We received 4 bids on this project. This is related to, air handling equipment, changes, renovations at Cox Mill Elementary School and Harrisburg Elementary School. And we did come in over budget. And I apologize, the wording, or the amounts rather, shown in your agenda document are not correct. I think this was an earlier version that I inadvertently included. The numbers are really what are shown on the letter from the engineering firm, of a total bid of $279,090, rather than the $257,340 that I showed on the cover letter, so cover document of this project. The bidding was reasonably tight, so we felt that we got, at least as the market is currently, the best prices we could expect. I understand that this is beginning to happen in a lot of different school districts, especially on HVAC equipment right now, and controls. But these projects, we had a budget of $200,000, so we really didn't have anywhere to go. This is not QSCB. This is our capital budget monies, and so we really didn't have anywhere else to move money from. So we went back to the contractor and to Train Corporation and said, look, what can we do to negotiate this price down to make it fall within our budget? And what you see in the letter basically describes the negotiations that took place. What happened at Cox Mill Elementary, there's two places where wings of the building came together. In those situations, we had 2 units at the intersection. We actually had a unit facing down one corridor and a unit facing down the other. Train came up and said, well, why don't we just take those 2, condense them into one, split the output. You'll still have more than adequate air coming from the other units in the hallway. And we asked the engineer to review that. They said they felt that was a reasonable request, that we would still have adequate air movement. So we accepted the idea of reducing the total count of units by 2 and accepting that large deduct of almost $65,000. The other alternate at Harrisburg Elementary, originally planned into the project, were 2 what we call mini splits. They're standalone units that serve the server rooms, the computer servers, and they are standalone units. We had it designed so that it was going to be tied into the digital system at the school, or the control system rather at the school. Train came up and said, well, it is absolutely necessary. And the more we thought about it, more often we use them as standalone units anyway. We don't want them controlled as the whole school is controlled, because they have to run pretty much 24/7. And so we decided to go with mini splits, but with manual control, or local control, if you will, so that they didn't get hooked into the main control system of the building. And that saved us an additional $14,000. So the total deducts are about $79,090, and we do come in at the $200,000 budget. So with the negotiations that have taken place, we do recommend approval of the budget and acceptance of GNS. I want to get their whole name for you. It's GNS Heating Air as the contractor for the 2 projects as described.
Okay, board members, what's your pleasure? Consent? Okay, Ms. Furtenbaugh has some questions. I tell you, before we move forward, let me take just about a 2-second break while the cameraman changes their disc there. Okay, Ms. Furtenbaugh, you have some questions?
Lynn, is this GNS Heating Air, is that the group in Kannapolis? Do you know?
I believe so. I know they're local, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Can
They used to be called GNS Metal, and I think they changed their name. Is that the
Oh,
same?
okay.
Yeah, okay. They don't have a license number on that bid tab that's signed? Is that a problem?
Wait, you're not talking about, Gastonia Sheet Metal has changed their name to GSM. That's not who you're thinking
No,
of.
GNS Metal in Kannapolis,
Okay.
who put in my air conditioning in my house and services it, changed their name. Yeah, I'm wondering if that's the Kannapolis company.
Yeah, I don't have the bids with me, but I believe they were referring to a local company now.
Okay. I mean, because I would be pleased if it was, that it was somebody from the county.
Yeah.
Or
And
of course, they
sometimes-
may be in the Rowan part of Kannapolis, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll have to verify the license number, of course, that's.
So that's not deemed an incomplete element on a bid sheet?
No, because they can't do business without the license number, so.
Okay. But I know there have been technicalities in the past on bid sheets when something was not provided on a document and therefore cannot be filled in, that bid had to be thrown out.
I'll, like I say, with the license number, they really can't do business in the state, so I'm assuming that was just overlooked, either by the reading of it, or possibly when somebody was filling this in, they didn't catch that license number. We'll
And
verify that.
my other question was, Coxmill Elementary School has had moisture problems in the past. Is that air conditioning going to be sufficient to manage the moisture with their having the wetlands behind them?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was taken into account.
Yeah, that's really the whole focus of this project, is to
Okay.
eliminate that problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay.
Yep,
Mr.
I've got one.
Carter.
And you said that came from Train? That wasn't the design engineer. The fix for the intersection and the size of the equipment that allowed the deduction of 2 units
Correct.
came
Yes.
from Train. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, everyone, we go to the consent agenda for 4.07, and at this time, we need to back up to 3.3 and let Mr. Wickey do his report on the QSCB projects.
That's making sure that those 2 questions that Cindy asked are answered, right? Because I'm with her, making sure they stop.
Yeah, we had the letter from the engineer and from Train, so I felt like everything's fine. Are you okay, Ms.
I'm
Burton?
with her, making sure that.
Oh, yeah, on the license number you talking about?
Yeah, everything's okay with that, because I'm with her, making sure that those documents.
Well, I think these people probably been in business for a while. I'm sure they got a license number.
Yeah, well,
and they
Lynn,
were the
I
low
just
bid.
remember that there was a technicality on a bid some years back with an architect that something had to be thrown out on a renovation.
Well, I don't think we're
because
going
of
to
it
move
not being-
forward. I mean, it would have to come back to the board if
Yeah.
that could become a problem. It would
Right.
have to come back to the board.
I just
but
want to make sure because I remember a similar
Sure.
situation.
Yeah, I think Mr. Wickey will be able to take care of that.
We will. We'll do that before any licenses get, or any contracts get written, for sure. But I'll bring back the information if you like. Just getting to this guy. What I think I'll do, if it's okay with you, is let's go to the milestone report. That's the most colorful one. And I normally don't do this, but I think you all know, I know, that I appear before the county board on the meeting, on the work sessions, just because of the way the timing of the meetings is set up. So I do have some comments that were made that I will also present to you as well, so you're aware of them. I think, as I presented to that group, what we've shown now, we've broken this report out a little bit differently. If you go to the second page, you'll see a group of projects with green indicating those are completed projects. And the group below that now lists all the projects that have basically been dropped out of the active list. These are projects that have either been canceled or put on hold or been reassigned. You know, the funds have been reassigned. And just so that you know what the numbers are, we have a total of 40, or we did have a total of 42 projects as part of the QSCB program. There's 9 that we have set aside, so roughly 25% of the projects. We have 8 that have been completed, again, close to about 20% of the projects. And if you go to the first page again of the report, On
Yeah.
that page, 11 of those 25, there's 25 projects left to do. And of those 25, 11 of them will be completed by the end of July, ready for school, start of school. And the rest of, not the rest, but a major majority of them will be bid by the end of this year. So I say that telling you, we have plenty of time. I believe the only project that we have any concern over in terms of timing is the gymnasium at Northwest and making sure that that gets done before April 14th. We don't believe there's any real concern there, but that's the furthest reaching project in terms of time. Everything else should be done well in advance of that. So of the projects remaining, of the 25, like I say, 11 or almost half of those will be done by the end of summer and ready for the school year, and the others will follow shortly thereafter. And budget-wise, I have to, again, just reiterate, and we can certainly go to the budget sheet if you like. It's always lacking in information, is my frustration, because you all know what you voted and approved on. And if you look at this, you'll say, well, there's nothing shown for Northwest, and unfortunately, that's absolutely correct. And it won't be shown until DPI officially approves our request, which is, they have it, they're looking at it, and then we'll, through Kelly's office, we'll bring it back before your board for your approval. And then it becomes official, and then we show it in here. So it's a little lagging in terms of response. We show some of the things that have taken place. I'm just trying to get this up to a size that I can read it. You know, we've shown the movement of monies from the programs, like the windows and doors at Central, and moving monies from that to the office renovation. That's sort of old news, if you will. And like I say, typically when you look at this report, it is comprehensive, but it is old news. And that's the best I can tell you. It's Lee and Christine in my office, along with myself, and Kelly and Sue, do the updates and get all the numbers correct. But we really do have to, in most cases, when you're looking at moving money from between schools, you then have to go through the DPI review process, and it just takes time. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, albeit somewhat dated.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wiki, for the report. Now we'll start with Ms. Mynatt if you have questions. Okay, Ms. Carpenter?
I'm good.
You good to go?
I'm good today.
Okay, good to go. All right, Mr. Kiger?
No, I'm good.
Okay, and Mr. Furtenbaugh?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Lynn, for the Concord High School weight room and the Northwest Cabarrus High School practice fields,
Yes, ma'am.
those are both effectively canceled. Can they be moved so that they're highlighted? They're still in this active chart and they're not happening.
Oh, sure. Yes, absolutely.
I just don't want to lose track and have a complete list, perhaps in the original priority of what the canceled projects were.
Yes.
So they aren't lost track of, should we have a windfall somewhere?
I agree.
So I just want to have a complete list of the category of each thing. And I think for the weight room, the design, you have it noted, was completed.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think you need to keep track of what partial work was done.
Mhm.
And were the fields, was the design completed for those?
It will be to the degree that we would build them. In other words, we're still looking at alternative solutions for those in terms of
Right.
trying to get those done. And so we're doing a limited amount of design work. We aren't designing a track. We aren't designing any other structures, just the fields.
But they're designing it as if something could be put on it later.
Very definitely. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, we'll update that next time and get that all in the right place.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Furtenbaugh. Mr. Furr, you have any comment? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wiki, for your report. That finishes up the reports now, and we have one item left, I believe it is, and that is 4.08, board members. This is the board calendar. Let me get to that here, and then we'll discuss that for a few minutes. 4.08. Does anybody, I guess everybody's had a chance to look at the calendar and got it to meet up with your schedule and all of that. And do we have any discussion on the board meeting calendar?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, just a note. Normally, we don't have a meeting the week of July 4th. Do we want to move that July 2nd to the 9th, since there's a holiday in that week, and typically staff and board members like to be,
Yeah, I'm always gone.
Yeah, like to be out of town that week?
That's what we've been doing.
I think Ms. Monroe had talked with me about that briefly, and I don't know, Mr. Kiger, wasn't you in on that?
I was, and now I can't remember exactly what.
Yeah, this was a couple of weeks
There was a
ago.
specific reason we thought that was the better way to go. Can we ask Ms. Monroe her recollection of that conversation?
I will be in town on the 2nd, but not the 9th.
Oh, I see. That's
That
what
might
it
not be
was.
a reason.
Yeah, Dr. Shepard. But then again, though, people go different times. You know, I mean, they go this week, that week, and so it's not really any one particular, because you're going to have this group, and, and it's hard to please everybody.
I think part of it was since the 4th hit on a Wednesday, we thought, generally speaking, people would be gone the 4th through the weekend instead of the weekend to the 4th. Well, I mean, I'm just telling you what.
Yeah.
what
I
we
know,
were
and
thinking.
I'm not out of town. I'm just saying, normally, we even have
Historically,
hard
yeah.
trouble getting staff here that week, Yedlin board members. So I think when you're looking at the holidays 2 days later, if anybody's going out of town for the 4th, they're gone on Monday or Tuesday already. So,
Well, the good thing is that,
I disagree with that. I
Yeah.
think if you're leaving town, you'd be gone the tail end of the week, and you'd have more time to be.
yeah.
Well,
Well, I'll just say historically, in all
Right.
of my years on this board, we've always moved
Done
it to
tonight.
the week after the 4th, and that has been historical reference.
yeah, I know we have the last 3 too. It's
Yep.
always second week.
well, what's the board's pleasure? I'm okay with the 2nd myself. I'm okay with the 9th. I'm okay with any of it. I'll be here.
And I'm okay with your meeting, and I'm not here.
I'm out of town the 9th, but that's not why we decided to do what we
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I promise.
And
I think Miss Monroe had her vacation planned, I think, also as our board clerk, and that had a little bit of weight on it, too. I mean, I think she said she hadn't had any time off to amount to anything in quite some time, and it would work better for her schedule, and it's fine with me, but whatever the board wants to do. And this is on the consent agenda for the 16th, and if everybody agrees with it, if they don't, we can discuss it some more. I'll just go, who says consent? Thumbs up, consent?
I guess I would like to have we can do this offline, because Holly's not here either, but just to see how many board members will be here on the 2nd, and also the key cabinet members. So,
Okay.
and like I said, because if people are planning off of the historical perspective that has been there for more than a decade, it's not the 2nd, it's the 9th. So that was the only surprise on that.
Well, we'll just deal with that at a later time. We'll put it on the action agenda for now and discuss it in between, and then we'll come up for a vote on the 16th. How about that? Yeah, I've got mine scheduled. I'm good to go on that. So, okay, so Ms. Monroe, we'll put that on the action agenda for the 16th. All right, board members, I think we're finished up here. It's time for us to convene over into closed session, and that will be pursuant to General Statutes 143-318.11A3 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Okay, we'll be convening in closed session, and I'd like to say good night to our viewing audience and for all of you that's here, and thank you for all attending tonight. Good night.